free of the TB.
Yeah.
And you think you didn't have it originally?
I don't think I had it originally.
You think it was misdiagnosed?
There's a lot of fellas in there. A lot of them had come out of Korea. A lot of them World War II veterans too. That had it, and some of them skinny and coughing and positive, and I mean, some of them are pitiful. But I had no idea, because I was playing right in on the football team. I was playing baseball, softball, and I was short of breath, started smoking. But that knocked my Army career in the head.
So then you left the service
in
service. 49, 50.
51.
And then after that?
I was called in the ministry. I've been doing that ever since.
For 40 years? Yeah. Here in Knoxville?
Yeah, right here. Maryville and Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
Surrounding counties.
There were a number of questions that I had for you, and the last one is related to that. The first one is, I was wondering, after you lay a minefield, how do you avoid the mines you just laid? What kind of system did you guys have?
You have lay what we call tracing tape, and you follow tracing tape back out of the field. I know some guys have stepped on them after they laid them because you're nervous. The nerve-wracking part is when you're taking them up, because you're taking a bayonet and you probe in the ground, and you finally find one. You try to find the edge of it, and dig around it, and you try to get all the dirt off. Then you see if it's booby trapped. Sometimes the Germans would lay a mine and booby trap it too. And if you pull the mine out, you set the booby trap. Maybe the mine next to it would be hooked onto this one, and then you'd set that one off. Then they had what they call a bouncing baby. We call it a bouncing baby. It had 3 prongs. This is German. 3 prongs. You step on either one of those prongs, this little thing would go up in the air. It had about 600 BBs, or
ball bearings.
Ball bearings. Mm-hmm. They go up in the air, and you had, I forget how many seconds you had to run and fall, because it sprayed out a radiance. I can't remember the radiance, the territory it would cover, but it'd tear you all to pieces. I mean, those ball bearings come right down on. You take 600. There's about 600 of them. And but those mines, when I was always afraid of them, and I always try to back out the way I went in. And sometimes we try to scale off to the side, but if you let them stagger them, sometimes you can't determine where the side is. And that's the reason we have the tracing tape. Of course, when we all get out, we pull the tracing tape out. But I still think there's mines in Catherine Pass.
Well, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, I'd say they are. We've laid more mines, I believe. I can still hear the guys whispering and coughing, and nobody allowed to smoke. And I chew tobacco at night, mostly because couldn't light up. But a minefield is about the best thing there is for a counterattack. When you're in a pinch, your supplies are way behind you, and it's the best thing to lay your minefield and pull back, drop back a little bit, and wait for your supplies to catch up. But we laid a lot of them, and we took a lot up. So many different mines, like this Charles Murphy that you've interviewed. We call him Booby Trap Murphy.
How come?
That man could make more booby traps.
Sorry. You were talking about Booby Trap Murphy?
Yeah. He could set more traps. He could take sticks of TNT and set them up to where it'll do a lot of damage. He just, I don't know what, I can't explain any too many of his tricks, but they just claimed he liked to dicker with them. And if they've ever found something that looked suspicious, they'd call him. He'd come in and dismantle it.
He was just gifted that
Yeah,
way.
he was quite an officer.
When you went through, say, a town and you suspected that it was booby trapped, how would you search for the booby traps? How would you know they were there?
Well, you didn't really, John. I know a lot of times you'd find a German soldier dead. It's horrible to talk about. Guys, at first thing is run and get his watch, or if he's got a Iron Cross, any type, especially a German officer, rings, boots. Them German officers had nice boots. Of course, I wouldn't want to wear them. But just different souvenirs, buttons on his coat, maybe his cap or his helmet or something. The Germans would booby trap their own men after they were dead, and you could maybe move this arm to take this watch, and that arm may have a wire secretly, and maybe a mine under him, or maybe a some TNT or dynamite, tear you up. But you couldn't anything that was had any value to it. We was told not to touch it until you examined it real good, and not pull at it, but look at it real good. Because, for instance, we went into a lot of offices, real prominent officers. You could tell that the businessmen in those offices were well-to-do, and there was things in there that I wanted to take. In fact, I found a camera and a tripod, and they said worth money, because the Germans made the best camera. The lens was ground so fine, and we'd try to open a drawer on a desk. We'd look around that desk real good before we'd open it. Then we opened it. If there's a German Luger in there, we want it, or something of value we think is of value, we'd examine it real good, make sure there's no wires or anything to it, because there's a lot of guys. I know some sailors. As we got into France, they would walk or hitchhike all the way to Comont looking for helmets, German knives, anything for souvenir to bring back home. And we'd tell them, get your own. They'd buy them. If you had a helmet there, they'd buy it from you. I wasn't no souvenir hunter. But when we went in this fine office building, what was left of it, there was things there I'd love to have, but no way. Well, I got the camera. I'll tell you this. I got the camera. The tripod I left behind because I couldn't carry it. But put the camera in my pack, was hanging on the truck. And, well, I had some other souvenirs. I had a dagger, an Iron Cross. I wanted the helmet, but I think I'd throw the helmet. I didn't want the helmet or something because it's too bulky to carry. But when I got wounded, I lost all that. Me and a buddy of mine from Dallas, Texas, Johnny Day, we had it made up. If I get wounded, you take care of my personal, vice versa. But I think he got wounded before I did, and so somebody got a good camera, fine camera, but booby traps were really something. And over in Africa, the Arabs, they were dirty culprits. They would fight for the side that would give them the most, and we've seen them many times spying on us from a hillside. We'd have a half track or something. We'd take a 50 caliber and aim over that way, not to kill him, just to see if he'd run. Boy, he'd pick up and he'd take off. And but you give them sea rations, you give them money. No, the Bosch would give us better, the Germans. And so we give them 2 cans of sea rations. And they'd tell us where the Germans were at then. But the Singhalese troops, they were French Singhalese. They were Indians. They had their hair like a mohawk. They weren't afraid of anything but an airplane. That's all. And we would pay them, the government would pay them a patrol of maybe 6 men to go out and search. And we give, the English started this by giving you so much for a pair of ears. You ever hear that?
I've heard a few things. I don't know very much about
These
it.
Sinhalese would cut the ears off and come back and give them to the British. Well, they'd bring them back and give them to us. German ears. And but they said that those Sinhalese would go across a terrain and they would search out and they'd find a German pillbox or something, and they would rub. They were so quiet that they could rub their hand around the edge of that helmet to see if it was American or British. They could tell whether it was German or not. That's how quiet they were. And they would go down in the valley and build a big fire. They lay their blankets out like somebody was under the blanket. They'd go back in the shadows. The Germans would come down. These Sinhalese attack them. They were. I was glad they were on our side.
They were good at close-in
Oh
combat.
yes, they were. And they didn't shoot. They used a knife. They didn't. They didn't care about carrying no weapon around. But there's a lot of excitement. But I think about it a lot. And I helped conduct my platoon leader's funeral about last September out in Hudson, Kansas. I was a Jeep driver in Sicily, and he was a fine Christian officer. You never hear him cussing or drinking. He was an educated man. He's a boxer in college, and so we went out to visit him, me and my wife, about 6 months, I guess, before he died. I can't remember the exact date. We went out to visit in Hudson, and his wife said he had a heart attack. He was real bad health, going down fast. And she wrote me a letter after we got back home. Says sent me some money. Says if something happened to Bruce Hewitt, that's his name, said I want you to help conduct his funeral. And it was an honor, but I had to go back and dig up a lot of things that he and I had gone through. You know, he loved his men, his platoon, and I guess that was the hardest thing I ever tried to do is help conduct that funeral. He retired as a lieutenant colonel after he come back, got in the National Guard. He was an architect, built some nice buildings in Hudson, Kansas, and but his wife, we corresponded quite a bit. But he was a fine officer.
You think he was the best officer you knew?
Yeah, he was the best I believe I was under. He was a corporal. His name's in the book there. He was a corporal in A Company, I believe. And since he was a college man, they gave him battlefield commission, second lieutenant. Then he come over to C Company and took over our second platoon. And we was reluctant to accept him because he was a corporal, and we didn't know anything he had done as a corporal to put him in a position of handling or leading troops. We depended on West Pointers or OCS officers, but he being a corporal, getting the battlefield commission, we was kind of leery, you know, what kind of a man he would be. But he would always, he wasn't like the OCS officers that we had. He would get us together. He said, "Now, men, they've told me that we've got to go out and secure this area. I can't think of anything right now offhand. Minefield or something. But I want to ask your all's opinion. Give me an idea of how many men I should take, and if I got anybody to go with me, volunteer to go with me." He said, "I know I'm been commissioned." He knew that men had to felt, and I volunteered off the bat. I come to a place where he's dead honest. He was a man that you knew that was a good leader because he would ask our opinion. We had OCS officers come over there and lead you into battle, And as long as he got the glory, he didn't care. Just like Lieutenant Finley there when we laid that barbed wire. But he wound up, he got wounded, I don't know how many times. I thought he got killed because I quit. After we left Sicily, he took over another platoon, and we went to France. I heard he got wounded, and I thought he got killed. But then one of the guys come to Knoxville, a couple of years before that, before Lieutenant Huey died, and said, "Have you heard from Bruce?" He called him Bruce. He lived not too far from Lieutenant Huey. His name was Howard. I said, "No, I thought he got killed." He said, "No, he's healthy and wealthy." He said, he struck a gold mine out in Hudson and tickled me to death. So me and my wife, I said, "We're going out to see him." And we had a good time. He took us out and treated us and showed us off. And but he was a fine Christian officer. I seen him one time. Turned his head to keep from letting me see the tears. But one of his men got killed, and they'd always take a helmet, take a bayonet, the man's bayonet, and put it on his rifle, stick it in the ground, and put his helmet on top, so not the medics, but whoever.
His registration.
Yeah. Come along and pick the soldier up, and he was touchy. He had a soft heart, but still yet he was smart. He was smart. Any more questions?
Yeah, just two more.
Okay, go ahead.
First, I was wondering what do you feel was the overwhelming reason or motivation that made you guys go through all this together, to endure all this?
Well, number one, it was a peacetime army. We were trained. There was no draftees. It was all regular army. And we was proud. We was proud because we took the oath of a soldier. And so we didn't have any drawbacks. I know a lot of guys, and like myself, I went over the hill one time, to my shame, because of somebody, let's go, and I went. But we, in the Army, we knew what the Army was for: protect our country, fight battles, do whatever our Commander-in-Chief, a real Commander-in-Chief, would tell us to do. And so we just shouldered the responsibility and worked as a team. And we knew that we was training for something on all these maneuvers. We knew when we got on the Queen Mary at the Brooklyn Army Base that we was going somewhere. We knew that Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, but we knew we wasn't going to the Philippines because we was on the wrong side of the world. And of course we've been keeping up with Poland and Russia and England, France and Belgium and so forth. We read the news, and we heard the news about the things that Hitler was doing, and and we knew that England was our neighbor, and they were trying to bring it, oppress it, and conquer England. And we just knew we was going to be in it, so we just accepted it. And something you want to put it in action sometimes, like a police officer. He goes through a school, his cadet school. Now, when do I get on the street? When can I carry a gun? When can I go out in a patrol car with myself? I remember going out on patrol in a Jeep with Captain Reddy one time, company commander. Just nonchalant, we jumped in the Jeep. We was going out to check where to put a CP, and as we was going down the road, he looked up. Here come a German Messerschmitt right down the road. He said, "Byrd, we better jump." I put the Jeep in gear. I jumped on that side. He jumped on that side, and the Jeep just finally come to a standstill because it was in gear and died. But that Messerschmitt went right on across us. It must have been out of ammunition and everything because he was hell-bent for election back to his lines. And he said, "Are you okay, Byrd?" I said, "Yes, sir. How about yourself?" I skinned up a little bit, but we got back in the Jeep and done our thing.
So, sort of that feeling of pride when you did get into the battles.
Yeah.
It was just your job,
right.
Something you had to do.
And they indoctrinated you. I shouldn't say indoctrinated you, but the big red one, it stood out. Even in peacetime, it stood out. We read history. They would tell us about the big red one. They'd have things in the day room about World War I, about the big red one, the big first division. And we was proud to be part of the big red one. We go to town. If we see a big red one in a fight, we jump in. I mean, I don't care what outfit you was with, if you had the big red one on, you stuck together. And even though you didn't know each other, you just jumped in there and helped each other out. But it was something that we proud, like you say, proud to be an American, proud of the uniform. I was proud of my uniform. If you see some of my pictures, I'm not bragging, but I was proud of my uniform. I wasn't sloppy in it. I was really fully dressed when I went out. We had a garrison belt at that time, and sometimes we used it for a weapon. If we was in a beer hall getting a fight, we'd use a belt buckle for a weapon. But I wore my uniform with pride, and wherever I went, I didn't try to. Of course, you go in a bar room, you'd be sloppy sometimes. But walking up the street, I tried to. I shouldn't say I was drunk, which I did drink. When I walk up the street, I tried to walk straight back to the bus station, wherever I was going. It really energized you to have that uniform on, be an American, and knowing what you're trained to do. And we were trained, really trained.
How has the war affected the rest of your life? Is it always there with you?
John, for a long time, when I come back from overseas, my cousin, I had no family, like I said, my sisters and brothers in an orphan's home, and I come back to where my aunt and uncle lived, and so my cousin, she said, let's go to the show, Tennessee Theater at that time, and so I said, okay, and I didn't realize that still yet there was a war going on. I didn't realize there'd be a lot of news reels in the news. You know, they had news in the movies then. I didn't realize that, and so Marilyn and I sitting there, and boy, all hell broke loose on the screen. And I don't know what I did or what I tried to do, but she grabbed me with the arm. I was trying to get her under the seat or something, and I started hollering, and let's get out of here, and I was really still had that in my mind. And then I went up to Delaware to see one of my buddies, and that's when the jet fighters started coming into the Air Force. Me and him were standing out in the backyard. They come, me and him died. We dove under the porch.
Really?
Yeah, just naturally, just dove under the porch. He looked over me, he said, USOB. I said, what about that, Cole? He said, they ain't no... That's just natural.
Just reflex.
Yeah. And when I get talking about it quite a bit, it's like now I'm getting kind of nervous because I've seen things that... The worst thing I guess I ever saw, really, was when a little baby, the baby's mother, laying there dead, and the baby trying to nurse. Now that touches you. And there's nothing you can do. You can't pick the baby up. There's nothing you can do. You just walk by and just hard-hearted. Hopefully somebody pick it up and take it back to the Red Cross. I've seen old women, bless their hearts, I can still see them pulling their last, the only belongings they got in an old two-wheel cart or something. But that still comes back to my mind quite a bit. And that's reading sometimes you want to read. I read that in the book I just brought back. I just want to find out why I know that I was there, but why isn't there not? Why my name is not in there? But why isn't my outfit more recognized than it really is? Now in that book it is. Then I look for my company. My company's not recognized enough in the book. Then I wish they'd made a history of the C Company its own self, you know. Maybe my name would be in it, but my name is in that book in the back where it gives the name of all
The roster.
yeah, the roster. But yeah, it still sometimes. But God has been so graceful to help me overcome a lot of things that you know. Jack in there, he's helped Ben for trying to get. I don't know what he's searching for. He just keeps calling me, and you can't hear good. You just have to yell at him and try to get a point across to him, and he'll start questioning me about something, and I can't answer his questions. But it just I'm all right until I get. I go to our outfit has a reunion once a year. Me and my wife went to 2 of them. And all you can get, John, all you can get is guys sitting around drinking and talking, telling war stories. Did you know, what happened to old so-and-so? Boy, I heard so-and-so really got blowed up, blah, 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 blah. And here I am, a Christian, and they're cursing, but I love to talk with them. They're drinking. I don't drink. And I don't want to get in a conversation, but I like to sit and talk with them. Even one of my best buddies, Coleman Leonard from Alabama, I introduced him to his wife in Delaware. He married a girl from Newcastle, Delaware. And he's the biggest drunk. Had a heart attack, open heart surgery and all that stuff. Had a stroke. Now he's had to quit smoking. Had to quit drinking. He still drinks. You talk to him about the Lord, he belongs to some, maybe the Masons or something. But he says, now, Byrd, don't you start preaching to me. I remember one time when I used to be in trucking business, I went through Newcastle and I stopped to spend the night with him. He come in from work. He worked for DuPont. He come in, he had a big bottle sitting right there and a glass. He said, the glass up there, he poured me a shot. I said, Coleman, fix me one of them. He said, Byrd, you don't mean it. I said, yeah, fix me one. Byrd, you don't mean it. He knew I was Christian. He said, you don't. I said, let's do like we used to do, Coleman. Let's drink together. What do you say? Byrd, you don't mean that. I said, you're right. I don't mean it. But he lives down in Florida, and he's the president of our reunion. And he can't go like he used to, but
you stay in touch with your friends.
Yeah.
Those friendships that you make in the military are enduring, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they sure are.
Things together that really keep you close,
right, John? Now there's some guys that I've lost contact with. Johnny Day in Dallas, Texas. He's one of my good buddies. He rode a motorcycle in our outfit, and I tried to ride a little bit, but he said he said, boy, he could play blackjack. He could gamble. He was good at it. And we was over after the war, insisted we was in England training. He said, you press our uniforms, and I'll give me, at payday, give me so many pounds or shillings, whatever, and I'll go in there and I'll get us some money and we'll go to town. I said, okay. I put a good crease in our pants and blouse, and I get everything decked out. He come in there and he said, look here, Jay. Byrd, look here. We have a fistful of money. We go to town. And so he said, let's do this. Let's send enough money home so we can buy us a motorcycle just exactly alike, and we'll just tour the United States when we get back home. I said, okay. Back then you could buy Harley Davidson for $1,800. Well, I had the money in the bank. I got wounded, and that blowed our communication up. I don't know where he's still living or not.
Never heard from him again or anything.
Another one of my good friends, he's from Vineland, New Jersey. We used to sing, he loved to sing hillbilly songs. And I don't care where we was at, we'd sing some of the old songs, way down in Columbus, Georgia, and all that junk. And he wouldn't drink with me. He was pretty clean. But he and I was real close. We'd pitch pup tents together. That's what I'm thinking about. We'd pitch pup tents together and sleep together. He said, Byrd, let's roll over. We'd roll over. He'd put his back to me and so forth. We'd roll over again. if it was raining, we'd get our feet wet. And but we got on further into Germany. I noticed he kept saying, "What? What?" I said, "Ralph," I said, his name is Ralph Fleming. I said, "Ralph, are you getting hard hearing?" "What?" And I'd yell at him. I'd write it down sometime. I said, "Are you hard hearing?" He says he got to where he can't hardly hear. A plane would fly over, or Germans would be laying up a barrage, and everybody would be running to and fro, running to the foxhole, and he'd be sitting there. He says, "Byrd, what's wrong? What's wrong, Byrd?" I said, "Come on." We'd dive in that foxhole. And finally, believe it or not, John, he went totally deaf, and he like to never got back to the rear lines. They let him stay in the front. He couldn't hear. He couldn't do anything.
What happened to his hearing?
He was a corporal. He lost his hearing by just a lot of times concussions and bombardments, And so if he finally got him back and sent him home, totally deaf. And I often wondered whatever happened to him. So I found out that he lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. When I was driving a truck, I went through there and I stopped. And I called and he answered the phone. I said, "Ralph?" I said, "Is this Ralph Fleming? Used to be in the First Engineers." "Yep, this is me." He said, "Who is this?" I said, "This is Byrd." He said, "Byrd, where you at?" He come and got me. Spent the night, went to church. As one Wednesday night, we went to church together. The VA had taken him and wired him. He says he's the only man that's, what was that guy's name that Majors played, it, $1 Million Man or something?
Oh, the $6 million man.
Yeah. Ralph said he's the only man he knew of that was wired to be $1 Million Man. He had so many wires somehow in his head, and that he could hear pretty good, talk over the phone. He lives in California now, and I can call him and I can talk to him. So he's a real buddy, real friend. We've been in some times together. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want me to know?
No, I think that's got all the fun that we can talk about.